All right, it's district breakdown time, and I got a new counterpart with me this summer. My main man, Matt Stepp, Dave Campbell's Texas high school football. You remember him from the podcast. Now he's going to help me break down these districts all summer long. But I guess we got to start spring because we're only in April. But we're also in Texas. This is in Idaho. We can talk about football here in April, and people will be listening. So
always football season.
Exactly. Let's start this thing off with there's too many districts to talk about every single district until we get to 5A and 6A. So we'll start off with 3A as a whole for the Houston area. Last year we talked about 3A. We obviously didn't talk this early in the season, but we talked in August and we talked about Columbus. But we were like, man, Columbus has got to get over that Franklin speed bump. And then we talked about Grayson Rigdon. Yeah, he's the 6-man player of all times, but what's he going to be like in 11-man? Well, Shobo and them just told us to keep quiet and take a look at my ring. Don't worry about us. We got this. But everybody's got a lot of their best players are graduated. Do they have enough to come back and defend that thing?
That's a good question. I'm not sure they have enough to defend the title. I think this is more of a 2 to 3 round playoff team, in my opinion. If you're a Columbus fan, you got to feel good. You got all 5 offensive linemen back. You got Braylon Fisher back. The key is going to be Jack Schobel taking over at quarterback. He played in the secondary last year. Now he's moving over to take over the offense at quarterback. And I think the offense is going to look a lot different. Adam Schobel, who's now at TCU, much more of a traditional drop-back quarterback. You're going to see a little more QB run game with Jack Schobel, a little more mobile, kind of some zone reads, that type of offense. So they're going to look a lot different. I think they'll still be solid, but I'm not sure they're at a state caliber right now. But I got to feel good bringing all 5 offensive linemen back from last year.
Absolutely. That gets the younger Schobel ready to adapt to what he's going to be looking at because he's got more time back there. They weren't the only team that impressed last year in Division I. Old and Edna finished up, in the state semis. Talk about Edna. Do they have stuff bringing back? And maybe talk a little bit about Hitchcock as well.
Edna, there's a lot of rumblings right now about possible coaching movement, that kind of thing. So we need to wait and see what's going on there. They've been to the state semifinals 3 straight years. Haven't really fared well in those rounds, but done a great job. I think this is going to be a bit of especially if there is a coaching change, we're going to be looking at a lot more of a transitional year from Edna this year. I think they graduated pretty heavy, combined with the potential change at head coach. I think you're going to see a lot of transition with Edna. Same thing with Hitchcock, not as far as the coaching change goes, but they graduated such a good senior class. Lloyd Chubby Jones, Kelshawn Johnson, the big defensive end. I think he went to Nebraska. Hitchcock injuries kind of derailed them last year, or we could have had a Hitchcock-Columbus rematch in the regional final. Still going to be really athletic. This is kind of their last hurrah in 3A. Not going to be surprised to see Hitchcock move up to 4A in the next UIL realignment. So they're going to get it done in 3A. They got to get done, but a little bit of a transitional year from the Hitchcock Bulldogs as well. Still going to be a good team, still a playoff team. Just not quite sure if they're up to regional contender status.
Man, did they have a special 4-year run there? That 4-year class where you had the seniors from last year and then the ones that graduated the year before. Those were just a special group. Let's move down to 3A Division II. Usually here we talk about the East Bernards, the Tide Havens of the world. Are we still talking about these teams, or is there another team that may sneak up there in the Houston area?
I don't know if there's another team that's going to sneak up. Van Vleck was kind of that team last year that kind of came out of nowhere, made a great run to the third round of the playoffs before losing to Tide Haven in the third round. Van Vleck's going to be interesting to watch because they graduated Corey Austin, who was their do-it-all running back, put up huge numbers last year. He graduated. They bring back a lot everywhere else. So it might be one of those deals with Van Vleck where they're not as good at running back, but they're better at all the other positions. Tide Haven and East Bernard are both regional contenders. I think Tide Haven has a shot to be ranked maybe as high as number 2 in the state in the preseason poll. This last year was kind of a year where it might be a little bit down, a little bit of a rebuild for Tide Haven, and all they did was go to the state semifinals. Well, this group could be better than the team that played for a state championship in 2023. They bring back 17 starters, including a 4-year starter at quarterback in Cale Russell. So I think Tide Haven's loaded. They have a big question mark. They got to find a running back. They got to find that running back. Joseph Dodds 2 years ago graduated. They put the big kid, Jason Duran, at running back last year. That helped propel them. They don't really have a guy at this point to plug in at running back. So we'll see where Coach Lucio lines up and ends up putting the running back position. But Tidehaven's going to be a threat to make it to the state championship game. East Bernard, year 2 under Jeremy Jenkins, they went 10-2 last year. A lot of great athletes at East Bernard. They took to the spread offense really well. I think they're going to be right there in the mix, maybe a step below Tidehaven, but I wouldn't be surprised to see we get East Bernard Tidehaven twice this year. I could see that being a regional final rematch, a Greater Houston regional final, which I know you love.
Right. I do love that. My freelancers love it too. One more week to get paid.
There you go.
That's all they love. They want to get paid. It sounds like 3A Division II. We should be looking at possible AT&T trip, maybe a better chance than maybe Division I with what you're going here.
Yeah, I'd say Division II is definitely you have a better chance of getting the Houston area. 3A Division I is always very tough. Franklin's going to be around. I think Palestine Westwood is going to be loaded with KV and Bryant, the 2027 sensational two-sport star there at Palestine Westwood. So I would say the better chances in Division II. I think whoever wins that Tidehaven East Bernard showdown likely early on is the favorite there in Region 4. And I think they got a great shot. The Region 4 team has done some damage in the state semifinals recently in 382, so I could see the Tidehaven or East Bernard making a run to Arlington.
Excellent. All right, well, next week we're going to talk about 4A. And we got some squads in that one, too, and we're spread out throughout regions in there, too. We'll have some Region 4 action to talk about. We talked a little Region 4 here as well, but we will talk 4A next week. Matt, thanks for joining me, man.